Great to be back with you all finally. We've been on winter break, and it's been too long because we've missed you all so very much. And it's great to be back with you all, Friedman Adventures. We've got a very special guest tonight, Paul Zylstra. Paul, how are you, my friend?
Good, Phil. How are you?
I'm great. You know, Paul, you're not only a spearfisherman, you're a rod and reel fisherman. Your father was in the game. You and I chatted just a little bit before the show, and we've got a lot of friends in common. We're going to get into a whole bunch of great stuff tonight.
Great.
Sounds
like fun.
It really does. Before we do, however, I wanted to thank some sponsors of ours, and we have to start, of course, with where we're at, 22nd Street Landing in beautiful San Pedro, California. Also, Daiwa has just come on as our rod and reel sponsor. You might see that right behind us. So proud to have Greg Johnson and Daiwa on board with us. Opsin Fluorocarbon. If you want to get more bites, fish with Opsin. Fish Taco Magazine. Sean called me the other day and said, "Hey, where's my magazine? I don't see it in the show." And I said, "What show are you watching?" And he said, "Penny Florentino." And I said, "That was before we even did a deal." So he's back with us. And tonight we'll be doing our tackle grab. So we'll be spinning. If you're a Patreon member, we'll spin the wheel and see who takes home some great stuff. Steve, are you going to tell us what we have for tonight or not?
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be doing a tackle accessory bag. We're going to be doing some Daiwa swag and some jigs that were donated from one of our viewers, Mikey V.
Oh, Mikey, who's driving across country right now, and we wish him the very best. He's got a job on the East Coast now, and so we send all our best. Christina, Paul's wife, is here. You can't see her, and she wants to jump in the camera as you can, but it's lovely to have a studio audience. Great to have you here.
Studio, I like that.
Tony Gonzalez is out front, and Tony is hanging out late here at 22nd Street for us. And, you know, one other comment that I got to make, these guys who work on the boats, you'll relate to this. So, you know, guys that work on the Freedom and the Monte Carlo, you think they get enough fishing, right? You know what they're all doing right now? They're walking around the docks catching spotted bay bass and catching sand bass. And I just shake my head. I saw Gary from the Freedom, and I go, "Man, you can't get enough of this, can you?"
Looking at all the bait under the lights.
Exactly. You can relate to that, can't you?
I spent a lot of time, in fishing. It's all the little things, right, that make a difference. And we would, in the summertime, early summer, we'd fish halibut. I used to fish halibut all the time.
Yeah.
Had a little 14-foot Boston whaler, a friend of mine.
And this is when? How many years ago? Is this when you were just getting started?
Oh, no. This is like in the late 80s.
Okay.
But we would go around to the marinas at a certain time of year, and the bay chovies would come in. And then we'd catch bay chovies. I mean, we'd use the bay chovies to catch herring to go fish halibut.
Ooh, nice.
So we'd spend half the night, catching herring, and then someone come up and, we'd go fish halibut. So I can relate to always wanting to fish.
I know, right? I mean, whenever you see any body of water, I mean, it could be a puddle somewhere. You're like looking out. I wonder if there's fish in that.
Christine knows. No matter where we're at, I'll go down, look in the water, be in a marina somewhere, who knows where. You got to look and see what kind of fish there are.
I tell you, I know. Does that drive you crazy, or are you okay with that? You're used to it, right?
Yeah, part of it.
Right. So I want to get, there's so much to get into with you, but just recently, you speared up there at Palos Verdes a giant white sea bass. Why don't you tell us about that? That fish was over 70 pounds, wasn't it?
76 pounds.
Oh my God.
It's literally right time in the right place.
Uh-huh.
Just.
Did you go targeting white sea? Were you thinking?
Oh yeah,
I want to get a sea bass. Okay.
Absolutely. It was in the first part of May 2nd actually.
Uh-huh.
Typically, the bigger ones come in earlier in the year, and around like March is typically you get less fish, but you get bigger fish.
Yeah.
Spearfishing, and I went up in the morning, and it was drizzling. I almost didn't go. All the little things. I went by myself, which my wife hates. But sometimes you can't find people to go. I'm retired, so. And this was actually I think 2 or 3 years ago now, but I ran up to Furman. I was going to jump in there, and I kind of looked at conditions. It just didn't look good, didn't feel right, so I'm going to go a little further up, a little further west. And so I ran a little bit further west, and I stopped at a spot, and I looked, and conditions look pretty good, so I dropped the hook and suited up. and got in, swam into the bed.
And obviously, because of the lateral lines and how sensitive white sea bass are, you're not using tanks. You're free diving.
Oh, free diving. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean that. I'm going to let you continue with that, but you take a gulp of air, and then you go under and you spear a giant fish, and you get tied up in a monstrous battle. That is a dangerous game you're playing.
It can be, but it's like anything else. You know, you learn to kind of deal with those types of scenarios.
Right.
And,
Right.
I mean, weird things happen, that's for sure. But you know, typically it's. You know, my mentor, Skip Helen, you know, the thing he taught me, and, you know, you learn, and it takes time to learn this, is, you know, you got to be calm and you got to be quiet. So you got to get your heart rate down, because the fish, you know, they feel your presence. When you go in the water, you try and go in the water really, really quiet, and because you don't want to create big wakes, because especially with the sea bass, right, very, very sensitive.
Right.
And a lot of times you're hunting in, you know, really poor visibility in the middle of the kelp, and you'll, in the poor visibility, sometimes you'll drop in and you won't see them, and you'll just hear them boom, 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 and their tails just booming off, and you'll
Really?
yeah, and
Do you hear the croaking sometimes?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, when they're mating, you hear the croaking, yeah, for sure. But anyways,
Yeah, that particular fish.
Getting back to that fish,
Yeah.
so got into the bed, swam into the bed. There was no one there. And started swimming into the current, and I saw a tail of a sea bass go by from the surface, just in visibility, which I'm guessing it was probably about 12 to 15 feet,
Right.
which is like pretty good
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
for sea bass. So I dropped in and I tried to find it. I couldn't find it, but I knew there was fish in the bed, and so I was the only one there. So it's like, okay, just relax, keep kicking, keep kicking. So I'm kicking, and then
You say keep kicking because is the idea to cover ground?
Yeah.
Keep moving. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of quietly kicking on the surface, and I looked to my right, and I saw a couple fish going by, not too far to the surface, and so I dropped and turned towards the fish, and they kind of were dropping. So they're dropping, and I'm behind them, and they're going away, and I'm trying to catch up with them. But anyway, so I'm gliding down, they're going away, and I just remember thinking, that's a big tail that's a pretty big fish. And I pulled the trigger, and the fish took off, and I use a reel, and there's different methods. You know, some people use a float line, some people use a reel. I like to use a reel. And before I could get to the surface, and I was maybe like 20 feet.
Yeah.
It took all the line off my reel.
Oh shoot.
Gone. It just went. It was like, you know, fast.
Yeah. And so what now? You're getting towed? Or
Yeah.
you're in a struggle?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just below the surface, so I let go of the gun and grabbed the bands, and then so I got up a little bit farther, and then it stopped. So I figured it tied up, because typically they'll run,
Get the
they'll
kelp.
tie up in the kelp,
Yeah.
and then, you know, we follow the line,
Wow.
and, you know, that whole thing. But,
Yeah.
and when so it stopped, came to the surface. Of course, your heart rate's up, and you know, trying
Excited, adrenaline starting to pump.
crazy. So it wasn't taking any more, you know, it wasn't pulling anymore. So I figured it tied up. So I started following my line, and I followed my reel line out of the kelp, and so it swam out into open water, and my line was going just under the surface, all along the outside edge of the kelp, and then it went back in. So I followed it back in.
Wow.
And got to the fish, and it was in probably about 15 feet of water, and it was just kind of just tied up and just swimming. And I dropped down and grabbed it,
So what do? You
brain it.
You
get
brain
your
it?
knife. You take your knife, and then you want to brain it. So it's not like it was deep to retrieve or anything.
Right.
So just grabbed it by the gills, brained it, and then brought it to the surface. And then, so the one thing that spearfishermen I think do, and I'm not dissing fishermen, I'm a fisherman,
Yeah.
is we really take really good care of our fish. We typically get a lot less fish, you know, because it's not always easy to, you know, get a lot of fish, but we take really good care of our fish. So what we would typically do is brain it, cut the gills, let it bleed as we get all our gear together, swim it back to the boat. And then when we get to the boat, we have a line hanging over that, we'll clip the fish off, we'll gut it, and then get in the boat and pack it in ice. So it's bled, it's gutted.
Perfect
It's
condition,
a really
right?
great product.
You're starting to sound like Captain Dave Dodge now. 'Cause he takes really good care of his
He
fish.
does, I know.
Yeah.
But I didn't do this on this one because I knew it was such a big fish. So I just swam it back to the boat, put it in the boat. I called Christine. I'm like, I got a big fish. I'm not going to believe this, So
Is that your biggest sea bass?
Oh, yeah. That's
right?
Exceptionally big.
That was
That's
enormous.
a once in a lifetime.
Oh,
fish.
for sure. Absolutely. What was your biggest fish previous to that?
52 pounds.
Well, that's a nice one, too. But
Yeah.
76, did you say?
76.
My God, that's a giant.
Yeah, just luck with
Did,
Phil.
did you have a guess as to the size of it when you were towing it back to the surface?
Well, I waited in the boat,
Mm-hmm.
but the boat's kind of rocking, so I put my scale line over the radar arch, and I picked it up, and the scale was 70, 80, 70, 80.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh crap! So I just put it on ice. I'm like, I'm out of here, and changed my clothes and took off for home.
Man, that's something. I think we have some questions, Steve.
Yeah,
right?
we got some questions coming in from some of the viewers here. N6 Ewan is asking, what got you started in scuba diving or snorkeling? Was it Mike Nelson of Sea Hut or the cartoon diver Dan?
Neither. I
Probably your father, huh? Or no?
I did a little bit of snorkeling when we spent a lot of time in Sea of Cortez in the summertime.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
Yeah.
because that's one of my favorite parts of the world.
Because when the yellowtail bite in the morning, then they bite in the evening. In the middle of the day, we kind of goof off a little bit, fish cabria and stuff like that. But once in a while, we go snorkeling, and I borrowed a spear gun and kind of messed around with it a little bit, and I just something that I run a boat for a friend of mine that he would lobster dive. So I'd run the boat, and I always thought it was really exciting and
Right.
something I'd like to try. So I just kind of decided I wanted to start spearfishing.
What would you suggest to people out there who want to get into it? What's the best way to do it? Do they go to their local dive shop, or
Yeah.
you're a member of the Long Beach Neptune?
Yeah.
Is that a place to start? Do you take novice guys in there and tutor them along and mentor them, or not?
The Neptunes are a little bit more old school in the
Yeah.
sense that you need a little bit more experience under your belt.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that if you want to start diving, there's other clubs that will take people in with less experience. The OC Spiros. There's a great dive shop. Good friend of mine, Dave Friedman, great diver, one of the best divers I know. He's got all the gear. They have tons of gear. Spear America.
Uh-huh.
And they can honestly tell you, like, if you're a beginner, they can say, start with this. They're not going to BS anybody and say
They're not
you
gonna
need this
sell you something you
best.
don't- yeah.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And then
Good recommendation.
yeah, you can go to like the OC Spiros and stuff, and it's good to network. And then you meet somebody that, hey, let's go dive together, and then you can talk to other people
Yeah.
and kind of network that way, and then kind of work your way. There's a learning curve there.
Yeah.
And next question comes from Mikey V. I'm sure we're going to get into this a little bit more down the line, but he's really curious about one of your most memorable or scariest moments that you've had as a diver.
That's a good question, Mike.
Memorable. God, there's many. Scary was something we kind of.
Let's talk about it. Well, nobody else has heard that. It deals with a white shark, right? We're going to talk about.
Yeah,
But before we get into that story, I mentioned to you Al, and I'll butcher his last. Do you know how to pronounce his last name?
Who?
Al Schnippershoff.
Al Schnippershoff. Yeah.
Okay, it's I know I butchered his. I've
I
known
know.
the guy 25 years, but he was actually a young boy
Right.
on a boat at Guadalupe Island. His father was attacked by a gray white, and his father died.
He died.
That had to have been just an awful ride home, or just an awful thing for a child to. The thing that amazes me about that is
Horrible.
that Al stayed in that game.
I know.
He had to show some fortitude to be able to continue doing that.
can't imagine. I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, my son Patrick, he kind of got into this, and then I think he saw one, like shark about that, but he quit.
Yeah.
He doesn't go in the water anymore. He's afraid to go. So,
It's funny.
Anyway,
it's
there's
funny, yeah, because people, divers, we don't really think about it. Like I was talking to you about it a little bit before. It's not something that, it's in the back of your mind.
you mean the possibility of being attacked by a shark?
Not being attacked, just seeing a shark, or maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe being attacked. But my mentor was Skip Helen.
Right, and there's a connection with Al.
So Al Snippersoft Sr.,
Who died.
was Skip's mentor.
Oh, wow.
And so the one thing Skip told me was, if you can't get over it, do something else.
Oh, really?
If you can't get in the water and not consider that, then you should just do something else.
So the fact that he gave you that advice suggests to me that this is a common ailment, for lack of a better word, with divers. They must get freaked out at some point, some of them, and can't get that out of their head. And his advice is then go golf or do something else, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happens, pretty much. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's not that, we get asked that question a lot. It's not, I don't know. We just look at people and just go, I don't know. You just jump in and go do what you do and deal with it. You're just in the moment,
Right. And I guess if you were to get and look at statistics, shark attacks are pretty infrequent. It seems like great white sharks don't like the way humans taste, and if they can actually see them, they always say, if you're in crystal clear water, you're better off. It's the murky water.
Right.
It's the low light levels situations where they can't see. They look up and they say, is that one of those crummy tasting humans, or is that a sea lion? I'm hungry. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
But if they can clearly see you as a human, it seems like they're not all that into it.
No, I don't think
It still would scare the hell out of me. So why don't you tell your story? And before you do, though, I was going to say that Christine gets nervous when you go out alone.
She hates it.
A way to console you. This works with my wife. Double the life insurance before you go. She's really happy that way.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead with the.
Well, for me, it was a non-issue. But I mean, I saw, it was on the front side of Catalina, and the shark I saw was swimming on the bottom, and I was yellowtail hunting first thing in the morning, and it swam underneath me from behind me and just stayed on the bottom, and then it just went up over rock and down the other side, and I just went back to the boat. So it was a non-issue. But I know guys that have been looked at, when they're hunting yellowtail, and a lot of times, and they just look over and there'll be a white shark, and I mean people see them, but
Did you freak out at all, or
Yeah.
not? Yeah, I would.
Kinda,
Man, I
well,
would have freaked out.
I don't think I freaked out, but I was.
You were aware.
Yeah, I was like, I think
There's
I'll
a
go back to the
predator
boat.
around.
Yeah, time to go somewhere else.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, just went back to the boat and went somewhere else. Went
Yeah.
to a different spot.
Yeah, that would scare me. And the fact that it was down below you, that's how great whites attack, right? They like to come and then attack with that motion upwards like that.
But the water, like I said, the water's really clear.
Yeah, so did that give you some comfort? I mean, did you figure, hey, you can see I'm a human?
I guess. I don't know. I just saw him swim off, so I figured he's just going to keep going. So
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was like a non-issue.
Have you had a friend or anybody, or besides Al's father, have you heard or had a friend that was attacked by a shark?
Harry Ingram, a member of the Neptunes, he was at Guadalupe too. He had just a horrific story about a great white came up to eat him, and somehow I don't know. I don't want to get the story completely wrong, but it hit him, and then he rolled down the back of the shark.
Oh, really?
And then he yelled, and then the guy on the boat actually. This guy's got big cojones. He swam out to help him.
Oh my God! No kidding.
Yeah.
What a great guy.
Yeah.
With big cojones is right.
And so they got back to the boat. Everything was fine. But I remember Harry was so traumatic that he said the next day he went on the swim step, put his mask on, put his face in the water. He couldn't see anything. It was just blank.
Did he go again?
No, I don't think so. I think
He quit after that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a great spearfisherman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I would have.
But this is
It's
just
strange
crazy.
how those kinds of things, people react differently. I don't have any experience like that, but I did have a guy pull a knife on me in Costa Rica and almost kill me.
Oh, boy.
I mean, he got really close. And so I always said to myself, Well, I don't understand why people, if you escaped and you're alive, why would that freak you out? Until that happened to me. And I'm sitting in my room, and my wife comes in. She's from Costa Rica. And she says, hey, well, let's go out. I go, oh, no, I feel like just staying home and reading today. I was freaked out. I mean, I was looking behind me for months. Yeah. Carrying pepper spray and just freaked out. So I can only imagine when that happens in the ocean's environment of the shark, how freaked out you could be.
I guess so, and then these guys that I know these guys are still diving. It's not didn't freak them out enough to not to stop diving because they love it. It's right. So once you start diving, you cannot not dive.
I understand
because everywhere you go, and if you're fishing, me anyways, I think about. I wonder what's down there.
Yeah. You're so curious, right? Your curiosity gets to you.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's so exciting.
Yeah. When you first get down and then you start to see what's there, and you're like, oh my god.
And then when you learn how to hunt, there's just there's a lot to it, and it takes a while to figure it all out. The different types of fish, how to hunt those types of fish. And so
different methodology depending upon the type of fish, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The yellowtail are curious like a cat, and so
they'll come right up to you and shoot them in the head.
You swim away, yeah. You swim away from them a lot of times, and then turn around, and then they were like, "Hey," and then you shoot them in the head.
Give one chance, right?
Yeah. The big ones are smart. They're smarter, so
that's how they got big.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But white sea bass, it's just you got to be super quiet, super calm. It's different, 100% different. Every time you're hunting a certain fish, you're in a certain mindset of how to hunt those fish. But it takes a lot of time. You go with people that do it and learn from other people a lot.
Yeah, that's life in general, right, Paul? Yeah, Steve.
We got some more questions coming in. Our buddy Jeff Yeomans is asking, Paul, when you're out there and you're fishing. Have you ever had to use your diving skills to, like, if you break off and a fish is tangled up in the kelp, have you ever had to dive in if you're fishing rod and reel to retrieve a fish?
I have retrieved fish for fishermen,
right?
In the past, where they just run into the kelp, they know the fish is still on there,
right? And
then we'll pull up or something to a kelp bed, and we don't just charge in,
right.
We just like pull up and kind of look and go, hey, that guy's hooked up, so there must be fish around. So we're just trying to figure out, like, okay, maybe we can go over here, and then they see the dive flag or something,
right.
They go, hey, I got a fish on here. Can you go
get
it
out?
Sure,
give me half those fillets and I'll take care of that for you.
We just ask them if it's okay if we anchor up, not too far away, and just swim over there and, keep our distance.
Yeah.
And that's funny, I never could understand why fishermen don't, fishermen and divers, it's like oil and water.
Yeah, right.
I just can't understand that because, and I used to think that the same way, but.
You mean when you were a fisherman?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You didn't.
Oh, we need to get out of here,
These guys are screw this all up.
But the divers have to be so quiet in the water to spear a fish, to hold your breath and dive down and spear a fish. You're not splashing around. You're not, you have to go down and, look around. And, the fishermen, they should be coming over asking us, what do you see?
Yeah, right.
A great example that Jeff Jones went with us on a trip to my cousin was telling me.
Yeah, I remember Jeff.
We went to Palos Verdes. 3 divers get in the water, so he stayed on the boat. He was just fishing, and we came back to the boat. And he had a wide open white sea bass bite going on, and we were swimming in the kelp right directly in from it. We look up, and he's bent, and he's catching white sea bass, and we're in the kelp bed right in front of it.
And not seeing anything.
Nothing. They were just outside the kelp, I guess. Whatever, but I don't know. So I just, for me, knowing both sides of it now, that divers aren't as big an issue to fishermen as fishermen think they are.
Yeah, and we're all kind of watermen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all should have that in common, that love for the sea and. Yeah. Same thing with surfers, and like when you're surf fishing, there's always like something going on. And I'm pretty much like, if I see a surfer that's looking for a fight, and sometimes they are, I'll just look at them straight. I'll say, where do you want to serve? I'll go the other way. I'm not down here to pick a fight with anybody. I just want to get
I'm pretty
few
sure
hours
there could be some fish over there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I'm cool. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
I got more.
Yeah,
I got a
go
couple
ahead.
more. Mikey V is asking, do you have any experience with those shark deterrent electronics or sprays? Do they really work? Do you know anything about that?
I know some guys that wear shark shields. A lot of times there's, more people don't than do.
Yeah.
But, some...
And that's hard to tell whether, because you don't, do you wear a shark shield? Mm-hmm. Right, and you've never been attacked by a shark. No. And the guy wearing the shark shield, he probably says, I've probably never been attacked because I wear a shark shield.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows, right? I don't know about the studies. Maybe they've done some studies on that.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally,
Why don't you wear it?
It's just something else to wear. Something else, I feel like I have enough gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. Don't look.
You want him in a shark?
No, I'm not. I don't know. I feel okay not wearing one. But, if it makes people feel better and they want to wear one, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Stephen Ennis is asking, is it only white sharks that you've encountered? Is there any other type of sharks that you see often or that you've encountered while you're out there in the water?
Good question, Steve.
Yeah, when we're diving the kelps, or open oceans.
You must see makos out there, right?
Yeah. See makos sometimes.
They're nasty.
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those things, it's the same kind of scenario, right? I know some guy who, he was in the water, he was on a kelp, spearing Dorado or Yellowtail, and then he had a float line, so then he was, at the end of his float line was a float, and then he was spearing fish and just sliding them down the float line because there's a lot of fish.
Oh shit!
So then he
got a chum line going, huh?
And then he felt something tugging on his on his float line. He looked back and there's a mako eating his.
Sure.
Took off with all his stuff.
Oh really?
Yeah. Took his spear gun, float line, fish,
God.
Everything, and just swam off with it. And then I don't know how many days later, but on his float. He had his name and phone number on there, and some fisherman called him and found it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in the middle of the ocean.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Not sometimes later in the summer, like at Clemente, the warmer, the El Nino years, maybe hammerheads.
Yeah, right. And blue sharks are like so rare now. I remember.
know.
Do you remember when you could walk on those things, like going from Redondo to Catalina? You'd walk up to the bow at night. I can remember going up there on the Pursuit and with my brother and just, oh my God, there's so many sharks. And now you rarely see a blue.
Rarely see a blue shark. Yeah.
Have you ever run into those out there?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, just because they're so rare now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's overfishing or what it is. Steve?
And then last question for now is from N6 Yoon. He asked, does camouflage work underwater? I know that there's wetsuits that they make them in all kinds of colors. They look like camouflage. Is there something to that?
I think so. I think for me, more for the kelp. The camouflage wetsuits, there's all different kinds of colors. They have the ones that look more like kelp and ones like that are blue for the open water and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it works. I wear a black wetsuit.
Do you think if you wore a bright pink wetsuit, it would make a difference? Like, would it scare the fish away, or
maybe?
Yeah, who knows, right?
I don't know.
You have to try that one of these times, Paul.
I'll have you
get the photo.
I'll have you get one for me.
Yeah, I've got a couple of extra ones at home, so no problem. All right, anything else there? Jeff asked a question, and he was asking about, have you ever had to swim down and help an angler out? I've got a question for you. When you're in a unique position when you're diving, you get to see the behavior of fish. Is there anything you've been able to learn from the behavior that helps you as a rod and reel guy?
100%.
I'll bet.
100%.
Yeah, because you got a huge advantage on me. I haven't seen that. So you see fish when they're feeding, when they're not feeding, how they feed.
Exactly. All of that.
Give an example.
All of that.
Like sea bass fishing. How has your experience in the water helped you to become a better angler? What do you see? Are there times when
sea bass doesn't relate to that?
Okay.
Because when we're diving for sea bass, we're pretty much in the heavy kelp.
Right. So and it's murky water.
But you could never land a fish where we're spearing those fish.
Okay.
An angler cannot catch them because there's just too much kelp. It's not even, I don't care, you could use, the best spray in the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut the kelp or whatever. There's no way. I've done this enough, caught a lot of fish. So, we're not diving on the squid beds, in 100 feet of water where you're set up at night, you put the lights out, you get the bait around the boat, you're making your own bait, and then, in the morning they bite.
Yeah.
We're not fishing, we're not diving at 100 feet of water.
Right.
So those two don't really kind of relate, but the thing that relates more would be
Offshore?
Yellowtail a lot.
Let's take Yellowtail and talk about that then.
So if you could just go, say, anywhere in the island, and just you go to Clemente and you jump in somewhere.
Yeah.
You might see a yellowtail. But there's certain places that, certain rock, certain structure that, like any other, the certain fish want to be in certain places. They like certain spots, right?
Yeah.
And at those spots, if you get there and say there's no current and there's no perch. So when we get in to dive for yellowtail, you go look for the perch. And it's typically, in a normal scenario, there's blacksmiths. Out in front of the blacksmiths are the blue perch, and out in front of the blue perch are the yellowtail.
Really?
Or the time of year, if there's flying fish around, then there's, the flying fish are in front of the blue perch, and then there's the yellowtail.
Is it always like that order? Pretty much?
Pretty much.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
And so when, when you fish, you set up on a spot, you go up current, you anchor up, you're fishing back to the spot, right?
Yeah, right.
And the perch are, you're just pecking away at your bait, stealing your bait off your
right.
lead head, right? And so, it's like peck, 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 thump. And that's the bite, right?
Right.
Well, it's kind of that scenario where you're swimming around and you might anchor setting up for diving is 100% 180 from fishing, because we set up down current from the spot
and swim up there.
Swim up. So when you swim up in front of the spot, then you're looking for the perch. You spear a fish and you just can drift back to the boat.
Oh, right.
So you don't have to work.
Yeah, swim back into that. Yeah,
try not that. You try and do this,
right.
But when you first get in the water, you don't see anything. You don't see any perch. You got to go look for it, because if you don't find the perch and you don't find the bait, you're not going to find any fish.
Right. And those perch and yellowtail always go hand in hand, pretty much for you?
Pretty much.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the reason Dave Dodge is so high on chum buckets and getting all of that stuff
100%
active.
Yep.
Dave swears that a chum bucket is your best friend, and he says you want to get the, kind of the food chain. The big ones come to eat the little ones, right?
I couldn't agree with Dave more.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've seen that being in the water, right? You've learned that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you chum, and I'm a firm believer that there could be fish, way over here, and they can hear that activity or whatever's going on with the perch and, whatever's going on, and they just come over to check it out.
Yeah. That is amazing. Now, when you find that there's no current in a spot, you hear these guys all the time. There's no current. We're not going to catch anything here, or we got to wait for a current. How do the fish? How does the yellowtail act differently? Do they act differently when there's a no current situation and current? Are they more active? Are they lethargic?
They're definitely more active when there's current, because they're feeding.
Right.
It's funny because I think that when the yellowtail are feeding, right, the current's gone, they're overtaking they're more powerful than the bait fish, and they're so they're feeding.
Yeah.
And we've been in the water, when there's a lot of current. I don't like a lot of current because I'm older and I don't have to kick that hard. But when there's a lot of current, and you'll see that just a lot of times you see the yellowtail, and they'll be active, and that they're chasing bait or whatever they're doing. You'll see schools of bait around, and they're swimming around, and then they get full, and then the current starts to go slack, and it seems like there's a little moment for me that right then is when you have like a really high percentage of a chance of spearing a yellowtail.
When the current goes slack.
When it's starting to go slack. And they quit feeding, and they're full, and they're just kind of lethargic, and I just look for the dumb ones.
It's kind of like the guy that just watched the Super Bowl and ate 500 pounds of ribs and he's on the couch, right?
Yeah.
Me too. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get off the couch at that point, right? And that Yellowtail sounds the same, and then you add that curiosity that you mentioned, and they're all set up for you, huh?
We pay a lot of attention to tides and currents, and it's not any different than anything else. It's, if you're out there a lot, you kind of see the patterns and you see what's going on, or if you certain areas are holding fish, and just like fishing.
Right, but I mean, you've been doing this for so many years that some of these observations that you're imparting to us and the audience tonight are just invaluable. It's so interesting to me because I've never been under the water and seen what you have seen. And it helps to improve your rod and reel game. I mean, as you said, these two guys, the fishermen and the spearfishermen, should not be pitted against each other. There's so much we can learn from each other.
100%.
Yeah.
I've been on both sides.
Yeah.
I know both sides.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a... I don't know if this is your nephew or not, but there's a Thor 5. He says, "Hey, Uncle Paul, you're badass. Loving your stories, Taylor."
Taylor Thorson. Yeah.
All right. Is that your nephew?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's Christine's youngest sister's son.
Oh, nice.
Great young man. Great new father. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Taylor, thanks for watching, and thanks for sending a comment. And Steve, somebody up there made a comment about Scott Grant. He said, "New look studio. Mics look great. Happy New Year. Sounds great." And I just want to mention to him that's all because of me, right, Steve?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
That's Steve, everybody.
N6 Yoon says, "What's the biggest corbina that you've seen?"
I don't see a lot of corbina unless I'm shore diving. I don't know, maybe 5 pounds or so. I don't spear them. I just kind of look at them and swim past them.
You're looking for a halibut or something? Yeah.
Exactly.
And then Jeff Yeomans is asking, when you are able to watch Yellowtail feed, is it usually on sardines or is it on something else that maybe fishermen should know about?
Oh, good question, Jeff.
No, it's everything you think it would be, if you're in an area and there's, greenbacks around, or, sometimes it'll be, just Spanish mackerel, sardines. I love it if we're, at some spot on the, up current edge of a kelp bed and, school of sardines go swimming by. It's like, it's got to be yellowtail around here somewhere.
There's something around, right? Yeah. Find the bait and you'll find the fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
100%.
And now find the perch and you'll find the yellowtail. That's a new one for me.
Well, I mean, when, we used to, I don't know if you know the Van Zants. George Van Zant was a big local fisherman.
Yeah.
And, Cal Van Zant.
Yeah.
And then Jim Krause, Saki, Steve Woodard, all these guys that, I grew up fishing with and, kind of cut my teeth with at Catalina.
Right.
We used to, Cal and I used to fish commercially, rod and reel sea bass and yellowtail. But it was no different, right? I mean, it was, you set up on a spot and you start cutting squid, hopefully you made enough bait the night before and you have buckets full and bags full and it was easy.
Yeah, right.
Because back then you couldn't buy bait. It wasn't like you could go to the receiver. You had to make bait.
Make your bait.
To work for it.
And you start chumming, and you get all the perch going. And it was all of that, right? You'd hate there'd be so much perch, but the perch are pecking away at your bait and pecking, and you just have you're fishing a white lead head and you just got maybe a little strip of bait on there. The perch are just eating almost everything, and then it's like thud,
boom.
And it's a sea bass or yellowtail or whatever.
Is it white leadhead or did you fish those bombers? Remember those
white
bombers?
No, depending on the current, we just fish whatever size leadhead for the current. And,
right.
Yeah, those bigger hooked ones.
This is such a good interview. I'm learning so much from you, and
Absolutely.
I can see you're an awesome guy too. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, we got some more
a ton of
guys.
people
Yeah,
watching.
Gary Rigdon says, "Great
Hi, Gary.
interview, Paul. Loved working with you."
Best boss I ever had.
Oh yeah, who's Gary? Gary, thanks for watching tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he and I work together. He's great. He's a boater, a fisherman. He's a great family man. He and I worked together for a lot of years.
That is great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Scott Grant is asking, is spearfishing restricted by limits? Can you harvest any species? Can you go into that a little bit? I'm assuming it's probably the same as just sport fishing, right? Or is there other?
It's a little bit different.
Okay.
It's like anything else. You got to know the rules and regs. we can spear in certain areas. We can anchor on Farnsworth and spear. You're not supposed to anchor, but we can. There's different areas that we can spearfish in that you can't fish in. It's pretty much the same as fishing. We can spearfish rock cod in the winter. If you see them a lot of times, the cods, like just I don't know what you call them, just the brown ones, just
Copper rockfish.
Like coppers. I don't know, just like some common. They'll get in fairly shallow water.
Oh, I know
Brown
what you're-
rockfish, yeah.
Sugar bass.
Yeah,
something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we'll see those and, take a couple of those home for dinner.
Yeah, heck yeah, they're good, right? The one thing that I would think is a little tricky is that you kind of got to be sure that it's a legal fish before you pull the trigger, right?
100%.
So, like, if you're looking at a halibut and you're going, God, is that thing
You don't pull
22? You don't pull it, right?
You don't.
Only if it's obvious.
100%.
Okay.
So that's a neat thing. I mean, I think that's really
I do too.
one of the special things about spearfishing is we can pick and choose. I don't have to pull a trigger. I a lot of times, and almost everybody I know will be this way, that they'll, let's say you're hunting and, a 5-pound yellowtail goes by. It's like, right. I'm not going to spear it.
Yeah.
You might just watch it for a little while. Sometimes, you're out there swimming around, there's nothing going on.
Right.
Oh, I get to watch the little yellowtail swim around. Sometimes the little yellowtail might go home with
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
But it's your decision to make. And, if I see a halibut and it's questionable, I don't pull the trigger.
Right.
All right, we got some more coming in. Scott
You are
Yerington.
popular.
Scott Yerington is saying, "Hey, Uncle Paul,
Hey,
Yeringtons
Scotty.
are watching and loving the stories. Grandpa would be so proud of you. Miss you and the sashimi lobster."
Scotty, yeah, he's my oldest sister's husband and just a great guy.
And your niece.
My oldest sister's
Husband.
Daughter's husband.
yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
My oldest niece's husband, Scotty.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Scotty.
And then Byron Quinones says, "Lucky to have you as a mentor and good friend." Jake Zylstra, a true Californian
son.
waterman. When do we hear those Baja San Quintin stories? So much
Coming
history.
up. I guarantee you that's part of my favorite
So
part.
we'll go back to Byron. Byron is my dive partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So Byron and I, this is Byron and I right here.
all right. So Byron and you are out with Dave Dodge,
Yeah.
and you're looking for big tuna. Take it away, Paul.
Well, we knew there's tuna around. This is, I don't know how many years ago this was now, but a few years back. So Dave, hey, Dave, you want to go run the boat for us? Yeah, Dave's in. Can I bring some rods and reels? Sure. So we trailered my boat down to Dana. I went out of Dana, left at dark 30, run towards 267 Clemente. And no, we were at 289. Anyways, whatever that bank is on the inside east end.
Uh-huh.
And we get there in the morning and there's no one around. It's calm and 1,000 shearwaters.
Ooh.
It's like, slow down.
Yeah.
And we were in the learning stage of, the whole, there's a lot of guys, believe me, Phil, there's guys that know a ton more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know to stop when I need to stop and
So
look
you
around.
see that
right?
life, right?
Right.
Yeah, of course.
So we stop the boat, and the shearwaters are just kind of leapfrogging each other. And I look over and I just see a deep boil, right under the birds.
Oh my God!
So-
Your heart starts.
So I'm like, they just kind of moved over towards the boat, so they're right off the bow. But there's 1,000 shearwaters. So Byron and I, we call it assholes and elbows. So we're in the cockpit. We're trying to get our wetsuits on. Dave's up on the bow, and he's
Throwing an iron?
He's throwing an iron.
yeah.
But there's too many birds. So he's like, yeah, I hear him up on the bow, whatever. We're trying to get our stuff on. So we get suited up, and then they're gone. So like, okay. So we start looking around. We look around, and we don't. It's a tidal thing, right? So tide's over. Tuna are gone.
Dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
Like you never saw
Darn,
them.
we missed it. You're thinking, right?
So we just started looking around, metering around, looking around. Came back in that area on the next tide, and they were there, still there. And we see them foaming. Dave gets us, Dave's like, okay, they're going this direction. He goes up around, stops about it. He goes, get in. So I was on the side that the fish were, and Byron had to swim around. So I'm like this, Byron's swimming behind me and off to the side, and there's just thousands of scales falling, and the tuna are just mowing.
God.
And I look up, and they're gone. And they're, trying to spear, a bluefin is, so a lot of times they're spooky. They just go away.
More spooky than white sea bass? Similar?
Different.
Yeah.
And I looked down through the scales, and I could see something going on. And so
Deep? Really deep?
Not too deep.
Yeah.
It wasn't crystal clear.
Uh-huh.
Water had a little green tint to it.
Yeah.
So I dropped down, and I dropped down about 20 feet, 30 feet, and I level out, and there's hundreds of bluefin in the 100-pound range just going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh,
Going right by you?
like just splitting me. And so
Oh, my God. What?
I just put my gun out, turn. I'm like, be calm, and then I just turned my gun to the right, and the head appeared, and I pulled the trigger. And I shot this tuna right in the shoulder, and the thing, it just peeled off, pretty much stoned it. It was half dead. And I came up and I go, Byron, I'm on. He goes, me too. So we had both shot fish at the same time.
Oh, God.
And so Dave brings the boat over, and my fish, it was pretty much done. It was, like a 10-minute fish. Get it in the boat. Byron's fish, it took off. So I got a second gun for Byron because we'll almost always second shoot him because, in case something breaks, you have a second. So I got another gun. I swam it out to Byron, and I just kind of hung out with him. Watched him pull his fish up and, just hung out, and then gave him the gun, loaded it up, dropped in, second shot, done.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how big were these fish?
Mine was 124 and Byron's was 140.
Wow.
But not like compared to stuff these guys are spearing now. These fish that were 140 are the 200 plus now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Paul, that picture in my mind now of you being in the water and all of these bluefin passing you by. What an awesome, incredible spectacle of nature to find yourself in the middle of.
Unbelievable. We even, and there's guys, like I said, Phil, there's guys like a million times better divers than me that
I think you're very humble.
they
by the way.
they do this a lot, and there's great stories and footage and all kinds of stuff of guys getting in schools. This year Byron and I, we were going to Clemente, and he has midweek off. Of course, I'm retired, so run to Clemente, sheet glass. We're, I don't know, maybe 5 miles from Pyramid. My boat goes, I was doing like maybe 25 knots.
Yeah.
Calm. I look over, there's no wind, right? I look over and there's just like some ripples. And I just go,
That shouldn't be there.
Something.
That's not wind.
so we slowed down. We had the most fun, incredible day, Byron and I, where there's not a boat in sight. It's sheet glass, and there's a school of 1,000 bluefin.
Oh, my God.
They're not big ones. They're like the 40 pounders.
40 pounders.
Yeah. So, you got to, when you, a lot of times you'll try and, you just stop, see which way they're going, and then just motor around in front of them, stop the boat, and hopefully they just keep going. You get in, you get your chance.
Yeah.
A lot of times they just sink out. You never see them again. More times than not.
Right.
These fish could have cared less.
Really?
Pull the boat up. Byron gets in, shoots a fish. Gets it in the boat. He runs the boat. I get in, shoot a fish. So we did that. So, and probably an hour or so, hour and a half, we had our limits.
Wow.
So Byron goes, I want to get in and get some GoPro footage. So he gets his GoPro, gets his camera. He's just wearing a top. Summertime, right? Top, trunks, water's blue. So he gets in, and he's just, the whole school is just thousands of fish swimming around him. He takes his camera and he takes a selfie
Oh God.
He's got it's the best picture. He took a selfie with all these tuna.
How bitchin'.
It was so cool.
Oh my God.
Super
I'm
fun.
telling you that how many people get to witness that, get to experience that? You think about it,
Not
and
many.
it's a fraction of the people on the face of the earth.
Fraction.
You know, and it just makes me think that, you know, looking in that screen all day long, so many people, and there's this kind of experience right off our coast.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I can't even tell you how many times we look back at the mainland and go, God, there's like millions of people back
Yeah.
there, and we're out here and going, oh, I see like maybe 2 or 3 boats, you know, something like that. It's the best.
People-
We're so fortunate to
So
live where we
blessed.
do. Yeah.
And blessed because of this bluefin fishery all of a sudden that popped up and has been an incredible blessing for spearfishermen, anglers, for all of us, right?
Everybody.
Yeah.
It's just great. I mean, I keep, knock on wood, when they're going to go away? Because nobody thought the albacore would go away, right?
Right, exactly.
So, and then, if you look back, I don't know what Zane Grey was catching them and, whenever, but
100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so you wonder, is this part of that 100-year cycle, or is it a whole new thing now where we have bluefin almost year-round?
I hope so. Well,
Yeah, that would be nice,
They're
wouldn't it?
still getting them, right?
I hope, yeah. I mean, I hope we don't become too jaded about it and take it for granted. That's something that would
Yeah.
be a shame, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I will not take it for granted.
Me either. I see a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
So Jeff Yeomans is asking, I've heard from a spearfisherman friend that a sheephead will come right up to you because they are so curious. Have you experienced that?
Many times. I won't even shoot them.
Oh, you won't?
No.
Are they that curious?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're really
It's just
easy.
like no challenge in it.
The only time I'll take a sheephead, maybe once a year, probably not even that anymore, it makes the best ceviche.
Yeah.
It's just fabulous.
Yeah.
So, maybe they'll spear a 14 or 16 incher, and that makes one bowl of ceviche, and that's about it. But it's too easy.
I'm glad to hear Paul stays away from the viejas.
Don't, and a lot of new spearfishermen, they spear a lot of sheep's head, and I would say just kind of try and relax on spearing there's a lot of new spearfishermen right now, so.
And in regards to sheep's head, there's a new regulation that just came about. I don't know if everyone's aware of that, right? That they're trying to push forward that they're going to cut down the
Correct.
limit.
Yeah, and that goes to what Paul is saying here. They were like taking too many sheep's head this past year, so I know Wayne from CCA said, "Hey, everybody, can you kind of please catch and release now?" And then you still saw a lot of carnage going on, and so who knows what's going to happen in the future. But you're right. I can see, though, a new spearfisherman seeing this big vieja, as we call them in Spanish, right? And just like, I got to shoot that. I get that, too,
I get it.
but I
get
get your sage advice also.
Yeah, and I can tell you that those new spearfishermen, if they stay in the sport, they'll look back on that and go, yeah, they'll probably say the same thing I said.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
And then we have Dolores Kelly. Hey, Paul, you're so awesome. I've learned so much about fishing overall and deep dive fishing, too. I love your podcast.
Thank you, Dolores.
That's my sister-in-law. That's Christine's sister.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Christine.
hi, Dee.
Nice to have you with us, Dolores.
Rocket Dog says, hey, Phil and crew. Dino Ricchetti says, Godspeed to Don Hansen, legend to the West Coast fisheries.
Absolutely. And
Dana.
Yeah. And just a word about Don. He was so good about getting everyone to participate in terms of managing the environment and all the species. He loved the sport more than anybody, and he's definitely going to be sorely missed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dino, for mentioning that. Appreciate
nice.
that very, very much. We should pay homage to your father because he had something to do with your love of the sea and fishing, all right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what he was doing? Because he fished the long-range boats out of San Diego when it was just getting going. Bruce Barnes and all those guys, right?
Yeah, Gary Black was a deckhand.
Yeah.
He deadheaded on some of the very first long-range trips
Uh-huh.
to San Diego on the Qualifier 85. So he had fished all down the Pacific coast of Baja, and even back in those days, I think I mentioned to you they've got some old movie film at home where they're catching marlin on the Gordo Bank, and they went up to Rancho Buena Vista.
That's crazy. They went way up there.
Booster fish, yeah. But he knew that it was a really good fishery. And then I think, I was probably around 10, 11 years old, and my mom's like, okay, you need to go do stuff with your family. And my dad said, okay, I know what we're going to do. We're going to buy a boat.
I love your dad.
And that's when they just first
Open the road?
They first paved the road, 74.
70 Ray. I was going to say, yeah, like that, around that time.
And we took off. It's literally Chevy Chase. We had a boat with a station wagon and towed it to Cabo.
How big
That's
of a
great.
boat? How big of a boat?
It was probably maybe 16 or 18, maybe 18 foot
Perfect.
wooden boat.
Yeah.
And this is what year?
74.
Right. And so, I mean, I was down there doing the same thing you were doing. So
I love
you saw,
Baja.
I mean, I think there was what, the Solmar and the Finisterre, 2 hotels maybe, right?
That's it. Palmilla.
Yeah.
That's
and it was an amazing place in those days, wasn't it?
It was magical.
Yeah.
Magical.
Magical.
There's literally, we'd go, we'd have to go into town to get supplies. Maybe there'd be milk. Maybe there'd be bread. Maybe there wouldn't. Maybe
Yeah.
the truck didn't make it that day,
Right, exactly.
You go down to the ice house and they're putting the ice in ammonia, and it was just like, it was wild.
Yes.
Walking down the streets, my older sister, she had long blonde hair. They'd never seen anybody with blonde hair. They would literally, the kids would they were touching her hair because they'd never.
Believe me, I know that. I taught in an Indian village in Guerrero, and it was called, ready for this, Tlachtechisloaca. And I can remember the first day I met the kids, Indian kids. So they were Musco Indians. And I said, okay, class tomorrow we'll do, speaking Spanish. They spoke their own dialect, but most of the kids spoke enough Spanish. Mm-hmm. And this little girl, Carmela, I still remember, this cutest kid. She was probably 14. And I'd look at her, and she would look down. She would not look at me. And I go, Carmela, ¿qué es el problema? And she goes, you have ojos de gato. I've never seen blue eyes.
Yeah.
She just thought cat's eyes.
Just
Like, it was
tripping.
the weirdest freaking thing
I know.
she'd ever seen. And then finally, when I said classes tomorrow at 10 o'clock, they're all looking at me like, what's that mean? Like, we don't have clocks here. You have to point at the sun. It was really a wild place. I had a great time there. Spent several great months there.
What
but
a great
I know what you're
experience
talking about.
that must
yeah.
have been.
Yeah, it was. It was an awesome experience. But I know what you're talking about, the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to touch it because it's like gold, right? Like,
Yeah.
never seen that.
This being able to look back on that was just such a magical childhood. I mean,
Oh, God,
it was,
yes.
Phil was, I don't know how many times a year we were up and down Baja. It was every Christmas vacation, every Easter vacation so that was Cabo. And my mom, she should write a book. We went through she's a trooper. She would drive, like when we get in the flat stretches, we'd drive nonstop.
That's like 26 hours, right?
It would take us towing
yeah.
a boat about 30, 32.
Right.
And my dad would sleep when we would get to like Villa Insurgentes and that the flat stretches.
Right.
And then my dad would just keep grinding, and we'd get there, and back then there was no back bay, right?
Right.
So there was no launch ramp.
Right.
So we're launching at Palmilla over the sand.
Right. There's Pongueros there, I'm sure, right?
They were helping us,
Yeah,
and the
right.
kids, right? We'd put the boards behind the tires, get the boat in. But everywhere we went, we would get commercial fishermen and hire them to show us and help us.
Show you the game.
Yeah.
Show you where. And
In every location, and we just met some wonderful families.
I was going to say, aren't the Mexican people beyond
humble, wonderful people, honest, hardworking,
and
they-
lovely people?
great fishermen.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went, these guys, we literally we cut our teeth, and they would show us, and fishing marlin on the Pacific side, and
Oh, my God.
with all the hotel boats,
in
and,
your small boat, right?
and Juan and Carlos, they were teaching us, and they were just full throttle, wah, and our boats were faster than the hotel boats, right? So we just sit in the back, we'd pin a bait on, and we'd be sitting on the rails, and we each have a mackerel hooked in the tank and holding it short so they wouldn't get tangled.
Yeah.
And the boat's going, "Rah. Okay, senor, get ready, coming in." And he just whipped the boat in, and I'm just looking back, trying to fall in the water, and the stern of the boat would come around, and you just see marlin just feeding, just dump, I'm bit.
Oh, my God.
And so that's how they taught us, to fish. Anyways, literally every place in Baja, Sea of Cortez, Bay of LA, Loreto, Mag Bay, Cabo, San Quintin was, our special place in the fall. Getting in and out of the bay and learning that.
And San Quintin?
Yeah,
that's a little bit of a,
we didn't have GPS back then.
Right.
We didn't have radar back then.
Right.
And in the fall, you get a lot of fog.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many times we get halfway out of the bay. It's 10 miles. And, you get halfway out of the bay and you get socked in the fog. You just wait and wait. But we would go out. We'd go, fish tuna. We'd go out and fish tuna in the fall. Come back in. Land at Geronimo Island.
Yeah.
And, spend the night there. Then fish rockfish along the coast. Or, in the fall, if the Yellowtail are biting, many, many trips just anchored up, with the party boats, fishing Ben's Rock. And, I mean, halibut, it's just unbelievable how many halibut we've got there.
It's such a magical place.
It is unbelievable, yeah.
It cracks me up because I don't know about you, but like some people will say to me to this day, I go to Mexico still a lot. Oh my God, aren't you, terrified of blah, 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 and it's horrible down there. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the news about Chicago and LA and San Francisco, and I'm thinking, the Mexican people must be watching that news and listening to Americans say that, saying, what are you talking about? You guys, have enough problems up there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt. If you want to find trouble in Mexico, you can find it. It's easy to find it. But if you stay out of those areas, and we all know what I'm talking about, you're just going to run into wonderful, loving, great people that I have. Same kind of friendships, obviously, you do.
When you get out and especially you get out in the country. Or,
yeah.
Super good.
Yeah,
we made really good friends. I just can't even tell you. Just even now, I'll go with Byron, and we'll make a run to the Bay of LA in the springtime.
Yeah,
and it's the same. It's pretty much the same. I mean, we go out, I'll fish all the islands. We'd stay out for 2 or 3 days at a time, and all those places. There's nothing out there. Still exactly the same as it was.
I know.
It's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, and that picture you paint of your mother and father, and you driving down there. Just brings back so many fond memories for me and my 2 boys and us doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure they look back on it as special.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you a funny story of them. They're not divers, but so we went to Palmas de Cortez. This was probably, 15 years ago, something like that. And Brian Schaffen was playing with the LA Lakers. He loves to fish. So he wanted to take his family to Mexico for the first time. So I went to San Jose del Cabo, picked them up, and then we drove back, and we were having just a great time. So we had a great time. We shot a TV show, did a bunch of stuff, and then I said, boys, I'm going to take Brian and his family back to the airport. They're going home. This was after 5 days or whatever. And you guys go with Jose. It was two guys, both named Jose. Well, we call them Jose. They're on the whiskey. You guys go out and, you're going to dive for clams. Nice. And then when I get back, we'll have this feast.
Nice.
So Philip goes out, Patrick goes out, my 2 boys, and little Jose goes, and they're all, they're getting all kinds of stuff. When all of a sudden, big Jose yells, Tiburon!
No way.
And Philip goes, he said it that it freaked me out, and he just pointed. Well, it was an orca with a baby orca.
No way.
But my kids, they hadn't read the stats that attacks in the wild by orcas are non-existent or extremely rare. They hadn't read that, so they're like, oh.
They don't know. They just see this big fin, right?
Exactly. So Philip said he started swimming for the stern of the boat, and he said it was the longest freaking swim of his life. He knew. And Patrick is watching this thing come around and go down. So he's thinking, I'm going to watch my brother get eaten. So Philip gets on the boat, and now Philip thinks he's going to watch Patrick get eaten. So little Jose goes, Patrick, what do you want to do? He goes, don't panic. Everything's okay. These things don't attack, and don't worry about it. Patrick could only move one arm. He was so terrified.
Oh, really?
So Jose was doing all this swimming. He goes, we can swim to the boat. We'll have to swim past the orcas, or we can go swim on the beach. Beach is a little farther. What do you want to do? Beach! Yeah.
Come get me. I'm over here.
Yeah. So
did that cure him from diving?
That might have been part of the whole thing. Yeah, he dove after that a little bit, but I bet that kind of resurfaced later in his mind, and I think that freaked him out. Steve?
Yeah, actually, Rocket Dog is asking, this is more in relation to spearfishing. Rocket Dog is asking, so what's a good spear suit for an average height guy that likes to eat? Seriously, I've looked into most manufacturers list tall and skinny guys. What is a good suit for average size guys that you would recommend?
Size, you mean, or did he say like, or I mean, there's lots of different sizes, or make.
I'm guessing all he says is a good suit for an average height guy. Average height that likes to eat. So I'm guessing
he's a little bigger.
He's
guy.
a little
like
bit heavy set.
Yeah, like us, right? Yeah.
The best thing I can tell him is to go into a shop and try a suit on.
He did put make just now,
Okay.
so he's looking for a specific make. If you had a recommendation on that, what do you use? What's your favorite?
I get a custom made one.
Uh-huh.
M&B makes them in Long Beach, but he's been there forever. But I a little bit bigger than most divers, so off the rack is not as comfortable for me. But they make. I'm trying to think. I don't know a brand name right now, but I can tell you, and I told you about Spear America. They're honest. Go in there, try a wetsuit on. It's kind of, if you go in there and you try a wetsuit on, it's kind of understood you're going to buy the wetsuit from them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really fair to go in there and try a wetsuit on, then go buy it online. But,
right.
But there's tons of different manufacturers. They're all cut different. I couldn't find one off the rack. They were too tight around the neck for me, because some of the European brands are a little bit, cut a little bit more narrow. I'm a little bit bigger guy.
Yeah.
So, I would get Yazbek was what I was wearing when I was getting it off the rack. Really comfortable, nice, really good wetsuits. So, if I could say, Yazbek, I don't have any affiliation with anyone.
Right. Sure.
Cool. And then Peggy Peters says, please do tell how you and your dad caught the giant swordfish.
You guys caught like a 500-pound swordfish in Baja, didn't you?
No,
You didn't?
we never caught a swordfish.
Oh.
Dave Dodge even said that to me.
We caught.
Would you catch a big blue marlin or
Blue
something?
marlin.
Huh?
Yeah, well, we caught a lot of marlin.
Dave doesn't know the difference between a swordfish and a blue marlin. What's wrong with you, Dave?
No, I think
I'm just kidding.
I think what he's referring to is we're up off San Jose, and
San Jose Lo Cabo? Mm-hmm. Okay.
and it's called a runway, and
Yeah.
we're in the area. There's a couple boats were bit, and we'd fish blue marlin, and
Are you in your little boat?
Yeah. This is it was those. My dad had a few boats made over the years, but always wooden boats, glass over plywood.
And how big was this boat again?
They started out at 18 feet, and then the boat that I have now was one that he had built.
Yeah.
But it's 26 foot.
Oh,
so,
that's a nice
so
rig, yeah.
At the time, this was a 23 footer. We're trolling. It's in November. Blue marlin. We have the big jigs out. So there's
cool.
a couple yachts in the area, and we see a couple guys smoke, and so a couple guys are getting bit, and like, okay,
We're in the zone.
We're in the zone. So we get bit, and back then, we didn't have quite the gear that we probably should have. We were fishing a little bit light, but
So you're fishing probably 60 pound, maybe?
we were fishing 80.
Uh-huh.
But we didn't have two speeds. We
Right.
didn't have the big
Right.
internationals. Right, we're fishing like
6-0 or something.
we're fishing the like a 30 wide.
Mm-hmm.
Not big enough. But anyway, so we get bit. We just see the big fish come up on the jig. We didn't know really how big.
You saw it come up before it ate the jigs?
Just came
Lit
up.
up.
Came up on the jig. I'm looking back when it's looked like a trash barrel come up. So we're bit. Get the other lines in. The thing just peels off a bunch of line and just goes straight down. So 9:30 that night. So we got bit about 4 in the afternoon.
Oh, my God.
So it's just my dad and I. There's no cell phones at the
Pitch
time.
dark.
No nothing. Right.
Wow.
So
And did you come out of Cabo?
yeah.
So you got to run all the way back there, too, after
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
So we're just there was a Ken and Kimberly lived at Red Hill, so they had a radio. So we were able to radio them,
Oh,
say, because my mom's gonna freak out, right?
Right, yeah.
So we were camping on the beach or whatever. So then they went down, told my mom, hey,
Told your mom.
they're on a fish or whatever. So, but anyway, so it went straight down. We figured it died. We tried to plane it up, just bumping the boat forward, reverse,
Yeah.
forward, and the line just ended up finally breaking.
Oh God.
Yeah, just
So
fish story.
you think it was 500, but it might have been bigger the way it
I
sounds.
think it was probably bigger.
Yeah.
We caught fish that big, but this, I don't know, took off a lot of line and then pretty much died. So it's down 600, 700, 800 feet and trying to plane it up. Maybe it's 800 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah,
We
it's
lost
almost
it.
an impossible task. Well, it was obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Steve? Nope. I'm not finished with Baja because, as I say, it's one of my favorite places. I love to fish here. We talked a little bit about San Quintin, but I mean, what kind of experiences did you have down there in terms of the fishing? I don't know. Did you ever fish calico bass down there on San Martin Island or anything?
We'd fish down
Oh, my
we
God.
fished on the coast.
Yeah, too. Also, yeah.
We do the
Amazing, right?
amazing. They would stack up under the boat. The fish finder would just be speckled, and you could not get to the bottom. We'd fish plastics, and there's a lot of hard bottom
Yeah.
in that area. So we'd run, down towards Geronimo. We had spots. We'd near the hard bottom, and we put little marker buoys out. And we drift between these buoys on this hard bottom. We never anchored, but I don't know, my dad didn't like to anchor. So we put a chum bucket out. And they were just like puppy dogs, these calicos.
Oh,
and
they're big, right?
They're big, and they
Yeah,
just
they're big.
stack up under the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Super.
amazing.
You get to the bottom, we're fishing in probably like 100 to 150 foot. And, we're using 15-pound test and lead heads and scampies. And
Yeah.
you get through the calicos and sand bass, and, you get to the bottom, you catch a red or a ling, or super fun.
Oh my God, I know. I remember my brother and a guy named Bob Alvarez, good friend of mine, they fished down there. My brother got a calico bass that was 12 and a half
Oh,
pounds.
my.
Dried
like
out,
a record.
dehydrated, weighed on a hand scale. But I got down there late. Those guys had fished, and I pulled up, and they were at some discotheque. They were just coming out, and my brother was giving this calico bass to a senorita. He was trying to schmooze. And I go, no, don't give her. No, give her that yellowtail. That thing. So he ends up giving her like a 25-pound yellowtail. I go, Paul, that fish, that's like a once in a lifetime, 12 and a half pound calico. Anyway, he got it mounted back home.
Good.
And yeah, it's beautiful. And it was, but that experience was just incredible bass fishing down there. And we're not,
Unbelievable.
right.
And rock cod fishing.
They were fishing iron. They didn't even have bait. They just threw iron on that down the calico. And the rockfish,
Unbelievable. And back then, there's, the limits have changed and everything now. But,
I think I know what you mean.
but yeah, we'd make bait in the bay. We'd net our own smelt. And, the bay's just full of smelt. And you could just jug the tank full of smelt because they don't need a whole lot of flow. And they don't need to swim around. They just sit there in the current.
Right.
And you could just jug the tank. Everything eats smelt. We would take smelt offshore, everything on the kelp, the tuna, yellowtail, everything would eat the smelt. We'd fish halibut with the smelt. So we would just jug the tank with smelt in the bay and then fish whatever. We'd go to San Quintin. We'd go to San Martin, fish halibut there.
There's some incredible halibut fishing.
Great
there, right?
halibut fishing
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yellowtail fishing, incredible yellowtail fishing.
Yeah, you got breakers, you got bends, you got the 6 fathom. There's like if they're not here, you go try there.
Right.
It's just endless amount of spots.
I think John Wayne used to hang out in San Quintin. I think he used to hang. Yeah, he loved Mexico. He had a little thing going for Mexican women also.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so he loved. I believe they've got some stuff like where he sat at the old mill.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was a big guy. He loved it down there. So
I think. Well, when we first started going down there, the Velas owned it.
Yeah.
And then they sold it, but yeah, it was.
Do you still go down there?
Not
Has
the
it been a
San Quintin.
while?
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a while.
We got to go.
I would like to fish there again. I know lots of good halibut spots.
It bring back some great memories. I'm sure for
in
you,
the
right?
bay. Well, I don't know. Maybe they're netting. I don't know. They started gill netting in the bay or not.
I hope
I'm
not.
sure.
I'm
I
not
hope
sure
not.
about that.
But I got lots of good halibut
I'll
spots.
bet, man. I would love to do that. If you had to pick a spot in Baja that you thought not many people knew about and you're willing to divulge to everybody tonight, like some spot that, I mean, everybody fishes Ensenada, Todos Santos, and then San Quintin. And would there be a spot that you like? Cedros, or is there a spot that you have a special Baja memory from? You have so many, I'm sure.
I just think all the midriff islands, just because there's just nothing out there. You have to be self-contained, you're self-reliant. We always had a spare motor in the boat.
Yeah.
We had extra fuel. We'd go into Bay of LA. We'd pitch a tent. We'd put all our stuff in there. We'd put 3 or 4 ice chests in the boat. Extra water, extra fuel. We'd go run around. We'd go to, like, say, the east end of LaGuardia to a Stonky Island.
Yeah.
Right? And we'd go in and we'd put everything on the island and make room in the boat, cover it with a tarp, and then go fish.
How cool.
If the yellowtail are biting, we'd stay there. And then, we'd come back in and we'd double anchor the boat in a little cove. We'd barbecue.
We'd
take a barbecue grill. We'd just stay there. If they're not biting, then we take off and we go, to the next time. We go to Raza, we go to Partida, San Lorenzo,
So many
Las
options.
Animas, right? So many options. It's still like that. It's untouched. I mean, it's just the midriff islands to me are magic.
Yeah. And that nighttime, that sky full of stars is something you'll never ever forget if you're a Baja traveler, right?
I used to sleep on the bow of the boat and just be amazed.
Watch
at
the
that.
satellites.
Yeah, just looking for satellites in between the stars. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because you and I mean, same thing. We traveled down there around the same time and did the same stuff and had the same experiences, and it becomes part of your soul, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people, but there's just great people, there's great fishing, there's great food, yeah, all of the above.
Yeah, exactly.
And camping, and like you probably did the same thing, right? We camp on the. Eventually, my mom and dad built a very modest little house in Cabo, but forever we camped on the beaches.
That's what we did. We didn't have tents or anything. We just sleep on the beach.
Well,
in a sleeping bag.
We didn't quite rough it. We had a tent, and then we got a motorhome or whatever. But yeah, we double anchor the boat in the little cove, and every morning out fishing.
God, Paul, so good. Steve, go ahead.
Jake Zylstra is saying, tell the abalone shell story at San Quintin, Uncle Chip and Grandpa.
Abalone shell?
That's what Jake's saying. Abalone shell story at San Quintin, Uncle Chip and Grandpa.
You might have to type a little more something in there, Jake.
I don't think it was abalone shell.
It went boom.
Oh, no. Okay. I know what you're talking about. And they were conch. So a boat. And this was. And so, okay, I'm going to set you straight. This is my son.
Oh, okay.
So we would camp at Santa Maria Bay, which now then they kick everybody out. You can't so
Right.
As years went by, they built condos, they built hotels, so you can't camp anymore. But at the time, you could. So we're camped, other people camping. So came in the afternoon, and a commercial punga came in, and he had some shells. I think they were conches. Definitely weren't abalones. Some type of shellfish, maybe scallops.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the people bought them, and they took all the shells into the desert and just piled them up. And they start stinking. They're rotting, right?
Yeah, right.
So my dad goes, it's classic my dad. He's kind of a big guy.
Yeah.
Very, stern. Hey, he tells my brother-in-law, Chip, he goes, hey, grab that gas can and let's go light this stuff on fire. So they walk into the desert and you can't see them. And then but there's methane gas, they don't realize that. So they just dump a little bit of gas on there.
Oh, God.
So we're just all like kicking back on the beach, and then you just whoa, and over the bushes, you just see this mushroom cloud.
Oh, my God.
And they come walking out of the bushes, and they're literally smoking. And their eyebrows are singed. All the hair on their arms are singed. My dad goes, "We only put like a cup of gas on there." Like, way to go, Dad. My brother-in-law is just like, he's like, "I'm never going with you again."
Oh, that's great.
My brother-in-law, he was there he started dating my sister. He was, I don't know, 16. She was 13. They're still married.
Yeah.
But he and I, he's my brother. You know, I have two sisters. So
Yeah.
I consider
He
him.
became your brother.
Yeah. He was never not with us. Yeah.
Oh, so he had all these great experiences also, huh?
We were side by side, yeah.
Does Jake still go to Baja? Does he carry that tradition on?
No, Jake loves the water. He surfs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just mostly surfs.
There's some great surf spots down there, too.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So many good ones.
What else? Any other memorable experiences? Other places you like to fish in Baja? Do you do any surf fishing down there? Are you into that? Do you ever do bar perch fishing?
No, we never did.
Oh, man, I
No.
love that down there. And San Quintin's a good spot for that.
Oh, really?
Well, there's a beach called Socorro near
Yeah,
there.
just south of there.
Gravelly beach, right. And that place is amazing. When we were kids, we would, and this is, I hope the statute of limitations is passed, but we'd go down, fill an ice chest full of barred perch,
Nice.
ice it, and then come back to Chinatown. And Chinese love barred perch, so they paid pretty good money for it. And then we'd pay for our trip, make a few bucks, and then boom, back down again.
That's so funny. We kind of did the same thing.
Yeah. And we're going to go to jail after this show.
No, it's definitely the statute of limitations, I think, is over.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because it was 90 years ago. I'm so old.
I can remember, you know, I had to work, and Chip and my dad, my grandpa, my dad's dad, and another friend fished with us all the time, Bob Vandermeer. They're my dad and Bob were, you know, Long Beach policemen, and they took off. They went down, and they were anchored up at I think bends or breakers, and there was, I think you said that the qualifier was there. There was like 6 sport boats, and they're all just anchored around the rock. Everybody's catching yellows. It's just wide open.
Yeah.
So, like I was telling you before, my dad is that old school grinder. If they're biting, you're catching, and don't stop.
Right.
How many can you put on the boat? And my
It
brother.
was just part of the ethos in those days, right? That's how I was.
That's
came
the way
out of
my
that
dad
same
was.
ilk.
Yeah,
I know.
And if you didn't produce, you're not going on the boat.
Right.
And
Then you're like, it's supposed to be fun, isn't it, Dad? No, catch fish.
so they just caught a ton of yellowtail, and they're, you know, in those days we just put them in gunny sacks. So they're in the gunny sack. So kind of to what you were saying. So they put the boat on the trailer, take off, they go into town, and they just blow ice all over the yellows in the back of the boat,
Yeah.
and drove them home and sold them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. We used to, like, you're talking about when the Solmar and just the Finisterre and those, with the first day we would go out with one of the Mexican pangueros and keep our fingers crossed, catch a marlin maybe, and kill the marlin, take it in, and go to the taco stand and say, is there any way we could, like, eat for free for the rest of the week if we gave you this? Oh, geez, you know, mamos, yeah. And so we'd make that deal. You know, we were kids, so we didn't have much money. And we were trying to figure out how to negotiate our food for the rest of the week. And
Absolutely.
it worked like a charm.
Hey, I can tell you, I love eating striped marlin. I can't even tell you the number of people told me, oh, it's no good. Oh, it's no good.
It's friggin' delicious.
All the Mexicans eat striped marlin. We've eaten striped marlin.
I've eaten it.
I love striped marlin.
Blue marlin is pretty darn good.
It's
too.
white.
Yeah. It's so good. It's when it's fresh and you throw that on the barbecue,
It's delicious.
a little olive oil and butter and garlic and some lime.
Getting hungry.
Oh my God, Christina, I'm getting hungry. And now all I need is that sky full of stars, man. I can see that right now.
And then, you know, springtime in Loretto, right? Yellowtail fishing, same thing. We'd leave Cabo. On the way home, we'd stop in Loretto. We'd stay in Escondido, but in Escondido there wasn't anything there.
Yeah, right. I know.
There was nothing there. You know?
That is such a beautiful place, too. Puerto Escondido.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, and, you know, I mean, actually, the wintertime bite on the yellows used to be pretty darn good. You know, like December, January, you'd go up, like, maybe to Pulpito Reef, you know, that area up there, and fish that, and slow troll marlin, mackerel deep. And you could do really well. And the islands there are good. Carmen and Catalina's way down from there. And
yeah, we've been to all of them.
yeah, did you dive those areas?
No, we were just fishing at the time. Yeah,
Catching yellowtail. And
yeah.
Any great memories from that?
Just actually really good grouper fishing out of Catalan. Yes, spectacular.
Right. I got smoked on a big grouper out there, but
Yeah.
I didn't get it. But yeah, I caught like a skipjack or something and put that in. Oh my God, I got smoked.
We were, as a matter of fact, there were some divers that came down. My mom loves to tell this story because we were at Puerto Escondido, and then we were out fishing, and then some spearfishermen came down, and I'm talking, this is late 70s, right?
Oh wow, yeah.
So these guys, they came over to our camp, and they're like, hey, where can we go to spear some grouper? So my dad goes, oh, at the the north end on the backside of Carmen is Punta Lobos. That's supposed to be like a good spot for groupers.
Yeah.
Ooh, they did good. Those guys came back, and all their shafts were bent into
Oh my
views.
God.
They had big old 100-pound groupers in the boat, and they're like, hey, that was a good spot.
Oh my God, yeah.
My mom, she always said, I think my mom made some clam chowder for them. They're all firemen.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, I like
Oh,
those
I bet they
firemen.
were. Yeah, exactly. This guy Bob Alvarez that I mentioned before, him and I and my dad went down to Laredo, and my dad, I forget the name of the place, but it was on the rooftop of a hotel, and we were up there, drinking and having fun. So Bob and I went out, and it was really late on the Dorado, late. Nobody caught any Dorado. So we went to the backside of Carmen, and we couldn't catch anything. We were catching triggerfish. So. Same ethos, right? Why throw them back? We can do something with them. They're great ceviche. That's a good. And so we can give them away, when we get in.
Triggerfish is good eating.
We had all these triggerfish. I've told this story before, but I haven't told you. And so I go, let's go offshore. So we go out, and we're just motoring around. There's nothing. And finally, there's some birds picking, and we slide on it, and we get a Dorado. I go, whoa, cool. And then we get another Dorado, decent one. So we've got like the first two Dorado of the season, but it's getting really late. So we're in that similar situation as you, where my dad's on the beach freaking out, and with his broken Spanish saying, ayúdame mi hijo. Yeah. And so, because the sun's setting, and then all of a sudden, we decide we're going to chuck all the triggerfish because we need room for the Dorado. So we chuck them all. No more Dorado. And so we turn around and we start going, and I go to Alvarez, I go, that looks so stupid. Look at those stupid triggerfish floating over there. And he goes, yeah. And he drives over. Guess what was under all the triggers?
The Dorado.
Hundreds of Dorado. It became a kelp
You made
patty.
your own patty.
Yeah, exactly. And we just wailed on them.
Nice.
Just about filled. And then, went in. The whole
What
town was
what
like,
time of year?
I want to say June, maybe, something like that.
We used to go down in July.
Yeah,
Fish farm,
maybe the first part of July. It might have been July because it was a late season. I remember that. And everybody, we were the toast of the town. Oh, vamos, Dorado, yeah.
Everybody's getting fish.
Yeah, another one of those great memories for sure.
Well, and then like we would release, almost all our marlin, but every once in a while one would die, and so we would
Wink, wink, or one would actually die.
No, it would actually die. Like it would be tail wrapped or something.
Yeah, right.
Come up dead. But it never went to waste.
Right? No,
right?
never.
And we had a lot of friends that snowbirds, Canadians down there. They would, everybody got fish. If everybody had fish, the Mexican families got fish.
Right.
I mean, nothing ever went to waste.
Never. And there was always somebody to give a fish to, right? I mean, you could eat and have fresh fish and take care of a lot of people down there.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Did you make a lot of lifelong friends? Are you still in contact with any people in Mexico?
Yeah, some, friends that we used to camp with on the beach.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Canadian families, the Lafachis. A great story, Curly Lafachi. I'm telling you, he's the luckiest guy ever. He would fish once in a while with us, but every time he went, we just had like one of the best days.
Really? You got to bring Curly with you, man.
It was literally. Yeah. It was like that guy had a horseshoe stuck up his ass. So we had gone out, and there was, it might have been a searcher, might have been sitting on the Golden Gate Bank.
Uh-huh.
And so he was talking to a friend on, I think they switched over to like channel 63 or something. And they're like, yeah, we lost a big tuna, but we got to take off. We got to head home. But there's some tuna around. So we're like, okay. So we went out and caught a marlin for chunk bait. And this is like, I know people are going to freak out when I say this, but we
I like this already.
we catch a marlin,
Yeah.
and we cut it up for chunks. And we were chunking. This is a long time ago, people. And so Curly went with us that day. We told him, hey, we're going to anchor on the bank. We're going to fish tuna. Okay, so we anchor, So take a couple caballitos. We told Curly, hey, just let them way back. I mean, like, let these caballitos go way back.
Was this before chunking was like a real thing?
Nobody was doing it.
Okay, yeah, because I remember when people first started chunking, and they're like, "What?" So you were doing it before. How'd you figure that out? You just
we went back to the East Coast.
Yeah.
We had gone back to Hatteras and fished bluefin.
And watch how they did it.
Yeah. And so we were fishing in February. We were fishing bluefin in Hatteras, and they're chunking.
And you're thinking, this has got to work. Yeah.
So then we just got this huge tub of line, and we put it, I don't know how many, we had like 1,000 feet or whatever. And then we saw that the guys in Alaska, we had gone to Alaska, they used the retrieval ball.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're putting this all together, right? So we're going out and we're anchoring on these banks, and we're chunking, and we're catching tuna, big tunas. And there's people are just trolling by us, Like, what are these guys doing? They're drifting on the bank.
Yeah, what the rock cod fishing, huh?
So Curly goes with us. We anchor up, just a perfect, downhill current, just on the edge of the bank. And so we get some caballitos. We tell Curly, just like put a caballito, just put it way back. And so then we start chunking and put the rod and rod holder, and on the clicker, pulling the line off.
And so Curly was not an avid fisherman. He just went once in a while, and
he's a good fisherman.
Yeah,
but he's like really good salmon fisherman. They're from Canada.
Okay,
but then he would come down and fish with us. He caught a ton of marlin with us, and good fisherman.
Okay,
but not. It wasn't like he wanted to go every day.
Right, like you and me.
Yeah. But lucky guy. So we tell Curly, just put that caballito back there. He's fishing a 50 wide. Just, just keep letting it go back in the current. And we're chunking. So, and we got all the anchor line out, and we just put the buoy off over. We just put a loop around the cleat, throw the buoy on the side, over the side of the boat, tied off to the bitter end. And all of a sudden, Curly stands up, and this thing just screaming. The reel's we go, throw it in gear. So we got a big circle hook in it. So he just throws it in gear, and I run up. We clear the lines. I just let the anchor line go. Buoy's on it, and off we go. We chase this fish. Hour and a half later, we get about 250 pound.
Nice,
solid. So come back, grab the buoy, same thing. Get set up, same thing.
And Curly
gets bit again. We're like, damn, Curly, you're on. So after an hour and a half, we lost it. We lost it at because we used to fish we'd go like, I don't know, we'd have 100 feet of 100-pound, and then fluoro on the end of that. And anyways, one of the knots broke. So go back, anchor up, same thing, get bit again, but this time got bit on the chunk. Get that one, 225 pounder.
Wow!
So we got two nice.
Curly,
I know, Curly. So
I
we
like
got
Curly from the Three Stooges. So,
so we got two nice yellowfin in the bow, and we're like, hey, we're gonna call it a day. Let's go. So one of the yachts calls us because they see what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Friends of ours call us. Hey, we're taking off. Can I anchor up on your? Can I use your buoy? I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, I'll bring it in, give it to you tomorrow. So we get him in the tub, everything. So he calls us later. We're on the way, and we're almost in. And he calls us, and they got like a 300 and something pounder.
Oh God!
Yeah, so there was some really nice fish on the bank.
So you guys were chunking before the long range guys started doing it. Sounds like, right?
I think right
around that same
starting.
time?
Yeah, that whole thing was starting.
But you didn't get that from the long range guys,
No.
did you? No, you
East
figured
Coast.
it out going to the East Coast.
Yeah, and then we go to the Jamie. We'd anchor on the Jamie, and we go. We go out to the Seamount. And we'd fish for marlin or whatever. Let's just say we're it's springtime and everything's kind of up that way in the San Cortez, and we'd like to go out to Seamount and see if we can get a blue marlin, and then come into the Gordo in the afternoon and anchor up. And a lot of times the tuna would bite really good.
Yeah.
After all the pongas were gone.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it got kind of quiet, and you're out there alone again. You've had so many of those experiences where you're out there alone. You were talking about out here near San Clemente Island, and there is something special about. When you're fishing with the fleet and there's 500 boats, okay, but when you're alone and you got it all to yourself, you feel really special, don't you?
Really special.
Yeah.
I've done something good today.
Right.
Yeah.
And experienced something unique.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Really, really neat. We like that a lot, and we knew that the hotel boats would be in, certain time, so we just kind of, work around it.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you said the Searcher may have been anchored on what bank were you
Golden
saying?
Gate.
Yeah, I was on the Searcher on a 9-day trip. We were on the Morgan Bank.
Just up above there,
And it was
up above
brutally-
outside the Finger Bank.
Yeah, it was a slow trip. And my son Philip had just been born, and I was on a 9-day trip. I was filming a show, and it was just really slow. And we went a 9-day all the way down to the Morgan. That tells you how slow.
Yeah,
And
it's a long ways.
so I woke up in the morning. I go up in the wheelhouse, and it's Art Taylor. And I go, "Where are we?" And he goes, "The Morgan Bank." And I go, "Where's that?" And he's like, "Well, there's Cabo right there." And I go, "Take me in." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Seriously, I don't want off this thing. Take me in." And he goes, I know I have to have clear. I don't have." And I go, "Here's my American Express. I'll fuel the boat." He was on the radio calling Tommy on the Supreme, going, "Hey, he really wants off this thing." He
I'll
was
fly
laughing
home.
Yeah, it was so funny. Did you ever fish much up the Pacific side of the Baja, around like Todos Santos, or did you go around the corner there, or was that road? That road wasn't even built back in those days, right?
It was just dirt.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No, we'd fish up that way. Just we'd run up there. We'd run up to the Finger Bank. It's like 50 miles west of Cabo. But
Yeah, yeah. How about Gonzaga Bay? Have you been to Gonzaga Bay?
not fishing.
Me either.
No.
I hear a lot of good stuff about that.
A lot of spearfishermen do really well there.
And there's a new road. Did you hear about that? So that used to be an arduous, long, like I forget, 9-hour trip or something like that. Now you go through Mexicali, and there's a brand new road, and it's like a 4-hour.
Wow.
You're in Gonzaga Bay in 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that. It's gorgeous. But I haven't gone down and fished it, and it's so close that I'm dying to do it. I think you go down to San Felipe and then
Go over.
I think you go to Gonzaga, and
don't know,
it sounds great.
A couple friends of mine were down there. They did really good spearfishing.
How about like clamming? Did you ever do?
Oh, God, yeah. There's
I mean,
clams, oysters, whatever you wanted, as much as you wanted, right? You just go to, there's certain islands that hold, in the midrifts, and they have those little bays, and you just
load up on chocolate clams, right? And
so, yeah, whatever you want.
And then over in San Quintin, there was a time when Pete Thomas, who wrote for the LA Times, his brother Scott, and my 2 kids were really small then. So we were sitting around drinking, I think, and having guacamole, and we go, "Hey, kids, right there, go down there and start digging." So they're out there for like 2 hours, and they come back, Christina, with buckets.
Pismas.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, the guy in the bar is, doing the olive oil and the butter and the garlic and serving these things, and we're like in heaven.
I remember
Child labor laws.
Yeah,
going with
exactly.
When I was with Byron and we were diving. We got to Bay of LA for the first time together, and I said, "Hey, I know right in there. There's a bunch of clams in that little bay right there.
Right.
Oh, let's go get some." So we went in there, and we just put them in our dive bag, and then we put them in the bait tank for the rest of the day and let them purge.
Oh,
and
God.
got
Yeah,
in that
they're
night,
perfect.
Scarfed them. Yeah, it was really good.
So good. Do you like them raw, or do you, they're so
Well,
good.
then we both like steamed clams with butter and garlic
And oysters, you get good oysters down there sometimes. They have oyster farms all over San Quintin now, right?
It's been a while.
They do. So, and God, there was a place in Rosarito called Tito's Tacos, and you get a dozen oysters there for $9. Oh my God, I'd die for that. I'd just tapatio and some limon.
I love oysters.
Oy, 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 que rico. Steve, anybody up there for us?
Not right now.
And also, did you do much in Ensenada? Did you ever go to Todos Santos much, or fish Ensenada? Did you ever fish with sport fishing boats out of there?
No, we take our boat. We drove our boat down, and a lot of times, and it was hard because for us, you never knew the bait was kind of hit and miss there, right? So a lot of times
it still is, because you know what the deal is, that all the bait now in Ensenada goes to feed the tuna pens. So the local fishermen are like angry about it. The guys that are trying to make a living, So once in a while, I was down there and I fished with Diego Nunez. And he's a deckhand on the Royal Star, but during COVID, he couldn't come back and work, so he got a little Ponga or a Parker. Yeah. We'd go with him, and it was hard to get bait. Most of the time, it was hard to get bait.
Yeah, we would just trailer down, and these are the albacore years, and sometimes they'd be south of Punta Baja or whatever, or Punta Banda, and then so we trailer down there, and then and then run, out of there. But
Yeah, and there was great albacore fishing down there at times. The inner bank, even the Bonda bank, right there. Those fish will get on that.
close.
Yeah.
And it was, it's funny because prior to GPS and all this, I'd learned so much from my dad where, okay, we're going to go fishing. We get the chart out the night before, get the slide ruler out, put it on the table. We want to go here.
So you do the parallel rules, plot a course.
Yeah.
We had the dividers.
We ran the breakwater, and so Kevin Savord, he had a book, so you could tell how fast you're going by how many minutes and seconds.
Right.
So we had it all written down. So then we take off, we get down there, and 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we take off, and it's a compass heading,
Right.
and RPMs, and
Right.
RPMs meant you're going this fast. So that should put us here at this time,
Fingers crossed.
and then all day you had to pay attention.
Yeah.
And then coming back, it's like, okay, I think we need to go about this direction.
Yeah.
Those types of things.
Then you'd get a land bearing. Oh, we need to correct a little bit here, right?
But it makes such a difference now because, it's like, oh, we need to go that way.
Right. Having that knowledge and that experience, I'm sure helps you to this day.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I love electronics.
Yeah, punching it in. Yeah, right. It's easy
But it's kind of neat to
have that as a background. I did it on a little commercial boat, and we'd have to break out the parallel rules, and like we want to go from this part of the Tanner Bank to this part of the Tanner Bank.
How far is it?
This was it was a Loran Sea in those days.
Yeah.
So trying to line up and do all that,
Yeah.
and so I remember like, where the hell is the bottom? We should have bottom by now. And you're not getting it. You're not getting it. Oh my God, there it is. We're coming up on the bank.
Did you have use TDs?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could run certain course, and these would go up, and these would
Correct.
go up, or
Yeah.
turn, and these would go down. Those would go up,
Yes.
numbers go up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was crazy.
I learned a lot of that stuff from George Van Zandt, Cal's dad,
Uh-huh.
and Bill Lesher he was a local captain, really really good fisherman.
What did Bill run? What boats? Or
I-
where?
Out of Seal Beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he must. Yeah, he was before. Yeah, all those guys down there. Sean
Yeah.
Morgan, obviously. Morgan's old, but he's not that old.
He knows Bill.
Oh, does he?
Oh,
Do you know Sean?
I know of Sean. I don't think I know.
Everybody knows of him. Yeah, if you've read the jail roster, you know all about. He's down in Cabo now, running a yacht, and he's doing a great
okay.
job.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was down there, and we were supposed to hook up, but I was down there doing a charity thing. There was a skateboard park near San Jose del Cabo. The government built a skateboard park, and they built it in this impoverished area. So the kids all went out there every day, and they just looked at the skate. Nobody could afford a skateboard and basketball. So this woman contacted me through Ron Baker, Captain Ron Baker, and said, "Phil, I bet can get some, skateboards and get some stuff." And so we got a bunch of donations here.
cool.
Took them down there and gave them out. It was great.
Oh
Really
boy, I
great.
bet people were going crazy.
Oh my God, it was great. I think are we winding up here?
I think so. Yeah.
Any more questions? No?
No questions.
Paul, I know. I mean, we only kind of touched on the offshore stuff, so we are definitely going to have you and Christina come back. I thoroughly enjoyed
Thank
this.
you.
Learned so
Thank you,
much.
Bill. I appreciate everything.
Are you kidding? Thank you so much for coming out and your family participating and everybody else. It was really, really special. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, and we got to do this spin. So we're gonna do what you explain it because I'm lost. Right
So we're going to be doing the tackle grab now, guys. Today we're going to be giving away organizer tackle, basically a jig organizer bag. We're going to be giving away some jigs that Mikey V donated, along with some Daiwa swag from our rod and reel sponsor. So a lot of cool things going out your guys' way. A new Patreon sign up today. We got Steven Ennis, so he's going to be entered for this drawing.
Steven, good luck.
So here we go.
Hey, is Curly in the drawing by any chance?
He'll
It's a
win.
lock if he is.
He'll win.
Yeah, for sure. All right, here, I'll spin this thing, and we'll see what happens. It's spinning, 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 still spinning, and it is. This guy has won before. Eli Block.
Oh, nice.
Eli Block. Here, let's show so nobody. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Eli, congratulations. I know you've won before, so congratulations. And Steve mentioned what you've got. Really a special evening tonight. I want to thank everybody, especially Paul, for being here. All the people that sent in so many great questions. We appreciate that. Steve and I will be back tomorrow night because we have a special edition of Friedman Adventures podcast. We'll be here with the Wahoo Dad, David Choate. David will be here to talk long-range fishing and so much more. In the meantime, Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for being with us. And Paul,
Thank you, Phil.
once again, thank you so much for being here. Christina, you also. We had a studio audience thanks to you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night.